In any of the world's major cities, there are buildings everywhere. There are tall buildings, and there are taller buildings. But there's only one tallest building, and in Seoul, that building is Lotte World Tower. It's tall, it's towering, and it's the topic of our video today. I'm Jim Schneider, and this is South Korea A to Z. Open to the public in 2017, Lotte World Tower is described as a vertical metropolis. It's currently the 5th tallest building in the world, a 555-meter-tall skyscraper with 123 floors of convention, office, and luxury hotel space, as well as greatly desired residences, a vast number of shopping and dining options, and endless entertainment possibilities both inside and in the immediate area. Lotte World Tower is adjacent to Lotte World Amusement Park, Lotte World Mall, and Sukchon Lake, which is encompassed by a pedestrian path and several quiet spots to sit and admire the tranquil water, the tree-filled scenery, and of course, the soaring skyline. Ground broke in 2010, nearly 2.5 decades after the site was secured, and construction began soon after. Concrete poured incessantly to form the foundation. The largest crane in Korea was on site to build the framework. Disaster-proofing outriggers and belt trusses were installed to ensure safety during uncertain times, and by 2014, 2 years away from its completion, Lotte World Tower had already become the tallest building in Korea, rising above 305 meters or 71 floors. By the end of 2015, it had risen to 123 floors. 1 year later, in December of 2016, construction was completed. The completed tower weighed in at 750,000 tons, said to be equivalent to the weight of 10 million Seoul residents, or about 7 million Canadians. Drawing energy from new and renewable sources and built to be as eco-friendly as possible, it is truly a modern 21st century building, even though its sleek, elegant design was inspired by the smoothness of traditional Korean pottery and the shape of bristles curving towards the tip of a calligraphy brush. According to figures on its website, Lotte World Tower creates approximately 10,000 full-time jobs and an economic ripple effect of 4.3 trillion Korean won, or more than 4.8 billion Canadian dollars. The tower is more than a powerful visual landmark, it's an economic powerhouse as well. When traveling to a city for the first time, aspects of visits to tall buildings are often very similar, and often not very pleasant. You pretend to understand the architectural terms you read on exhibit labels while waiting in a long line which only leads, agonizingly, to another, longer line. You cram into an elevator with a herd of sweaty tourists, and everyone in unison hoots, stupidly, in surprise the moment their ears pop from the pressure changes of what was supposed to be a rapid ascension, but seems to take forever. You squint through dirty windows and scour the cityscape for the landmarks you've seen on the front flaps of your hotel lobby's brochures, but won't have time to see in person. You buy snacks and beverages at sky-high prices that make those at airports and movie theaters seem quaint and minuscule. You have your caricature drawn and develop brand new insecurities over the grotesque facial features and appalling figure you once thought were handsome and healthy. And you wonder, perhaps, if the caricaturist is racist. You throw your money away on souvenir magnets, keychains, tchotchkes, and trinkets which you purchase for people who did not ask for and do not want these items, and will in fact resent you for having made gifts of them, and then avenge this act of passive-aggressive and misplaced thoughtfulness by forcing similar travel badges on you at the first opportunity. And this tit-for-tat gift-giving becomes a hot war of attrition which will not end until all the big-hearted soldiers are long dead and buried. And even then, heaven has no need for souvenir stands, you know, but hell is full of them. But it's not all unpleasantness. As a first-time visitor, you might see far below a place and a culture you must acknowledge you are entirely ignorant of, and then become motivated by your ignorance to investigate. You might find lurking in the depths of your tourist soul a sense of curiosity and wonder which had not emerged since the glory days of your youth, and you might pledge, then and there, to once again live life with your eyes and your mind open. When you are familiar with the city in which the skyscraper you're visiting overlooks, it can also be a devastating and fulfilling experience, but in different ways. Natives might remember when the ground on which the building now sits was a barren wasteland, or nothing but sand, or a pear farm, or whatever. They might take pride in their city's or country's ability to erect such an architectural marvel. They might wonder why they hadn't visited years earlier. Longtime inhabitants might be reminded of the energy that attracted them to the city and persuaded them to take a chance on a new life. They might consider what it took to get established there, the grit, the gumption, the perseverance, the reinvention. Either of these groups might look out the windows and recall their earliest jaunts and adventures in the vastness of the great metropolis under their feet. Imagine you are one of them, identifying your own personal landmarks. There is where you got off the bus alone for the first time, and suffocating on your independence, taught yourself how to breathe. There is where you live now. There is where you lived when you were broke. There is where you grew up. There is where you went to school. There is where you learned some revelatory life lessons. There is where you had your heart broken, and there is where you met someone new, and there is where you fell in love, proposed to your future spouse, or accepted their offer to navigate the challenges and celebrate the joys of life together, forever. There is where you work. There is where you want to work. There is where you were beaten, savagely, but survived, and there is where you recovered, only to emerge stronger than ever before. There is where you were humiliated, and there, and there, and there. It is all under your feet, the pain and glory of all humanity, as well as your own existence and experience on this piece of earth. Looking at the tower from the outside, whether directly beneath it or from afar, Lotte Tower's height is astounding, its place in the Seoul skyline prominent and commanding. Tall buildings such as these, even for those who aren't linked to them by geography or by having made some contribution to their construction, they are more than just phallic bragging rights. They are symbols of human creativity, innovation, and achievement. To look down upon a plot of ground and up at an empty stretch of sky and imagine all the ways it can be filled. To settle on a design, a plan, and see it through from its utter absence to its undeniable, towering existence, is to look at an empty canvas and paint the garden of earthly delights, to stare at a blank page and write the unbearable lightness of being, to hold an instrument or stand behind a record player and give birth to an entirely new genre of music. It is to make fire, and then use that fire to make the first ever pot of kimchi jjigae. To build a tower that stretches so impossibly high into the sky demands an ability to meet and overcome immense obstacles and challenges. Its very existence affirms our human potential to imagine, to solve problems, to cooperate with one another, so that we might correct injustices, lift people out of poverty, end wars, and defeat viruses. To see a magnificent building like Lotte World Tower is to be reminded of that power of human potential and feel it beating in your own heart, coursing through your own veins, vibrating in your own imagination. But in order to do all that, you have to remember to look up.
에스컬레이터 이용 시 주의사항에 대해 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 에스컬레이터 계단 위를 걸어다니지 마시고 양편 손잡이를 잡아주십시오. 어린이가 장난치지 않도록 주의해 주시고 유모차와 노약자는 엘리베이터를 이용하시기 바랍니다.